Welcome to Conversations on Craft, where we dive into the messy and magical world of writing and aim to demystify the publishing process. So today I'm thrilled to introduce T.M. Payne, writer of the fabulous Detective Sheridan series. Here they are behind me if you're watching on YouTube. And before becoming a writer, Tina worked in the criminal justice system for 18 years, the last 14 of which was a police case investigator within the domestic violence unit. And now she lives on the Wirral with her partner Suzie and spends her days writing crime novels. Tina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Very happy.
We're going to start with our quick fire questions. So, do you write on paper or laptop?
I write the books on the laptop. I make lots of notes on paper, and there's post-it notes all over the house. When you say quick fire, have I got to answer them really quickly? I don't mind.
That was quick for you, Tina. Don't worry.
I didn't go off on one. Yeah.
No, that was a good length. Your favourite plot twist? Now, this could be something you've written or something that you've read. Do you have a favourite, or from a movie? Do you have a favourite plot twist?
Oh, from a movie. Oh, okay.
It could be from anywhere, from a book or movie.
Do you know what I love? I love when you get to the end of a film, and there was a film called Sixth Sense with...
Yes.
What's his name? Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. Rob Willis is somebody one of my books. And at the end of the film, and I won't spoil it if people haven't watched it, and you go, oh no, and then you want to go back and watch the film again to see if you can pick up. Does that make sense? And the Book of Eli did it as well. The Book of Eli was a film that they did it, and you watch the film, and at the end, it's literally that sucker punch where you go, no, then you have to watch it again. So I think it's called the unreliable narrator. I think that's a saying, where you get to the end of the book, like I say, a bit like those two, and you have to explain everything at the end. Obviously, you have to tie all that up. But where the reader goes, no, how did I not see that person or that incident was so important? And they go back and try and read it again and go, oh, okay, yeah, now I get it.
I think Claire McIntosh does that in one of her books, and it's that frame break, and you think, wow. Jaffa cakes. This will sound like a random question, but there are Jaffa cakes in Tina's novels. Is it a cake or a biscuit, Tina?
Okay, it's a cake. I think I'll tell you for why very quickly. Cakes when they go off go hard, and biscuits when they go off go soft. Now, I've never had a Jaffa cake go off in my house because if there's a packet of them, they've gone. But I may have in the past, so I think it's a cake. Jaffa cakes are cakes. Yeah. And everyone's sitting there
going... They're put with the biscuits, aren't they?
Sorry?
They are put with the biscuits in shops.
They are. See, that's confusing. I'm going to say cake.
But it's soft. Yeah, cake. Favourite time of the day to write?
Oh, I start writing mid-morning and probably into early evening. I'm not someone that can physically... I make notes. I can sit up all night sometimes working on a plot. Suzie and I have sat up before.
You did once before.
All night for like 3 nights trying to fix a plot problem. Yeah. But I won't physically get on the laptop and then type those scenes up. But we quite often sit up throughout the night doing the plots. So my favourite time to write, sort of like 9 o'clock in the morning till early evening. And then
Will you write for that long then? That's a long writing session.
Well, see, listen, my agent and my editor might be listening to this, so I have to say yes, right? But
half an hour a day.
But the truth is not half an hour a day, Suzie said. Yes and no. Sometimes if I'm on one, I will just write and bang out sort of 4,000 or 5,000 words. But then that's generally stuff I've got to go back and tweak. Obviously, you have to. I write solidly for 8 hours a day.
That's for you, Bro Doherty. Just in case your lovely agent is listening.
Yeah, bless her.
Do you have a favourite author?
No. Do you know what? I saw this question and I thought, I can't answer that. We have met so many amazing authors and whose work I love. Who have helped us, been supportive of us, whose books I love. I genuinely couldn't pick one. But if I have to pick something, and I know you're gonna do that thing where I'm talking too much, and that's fine. The best thing I've ever read, I love writing poetry, and there's a poem by Walter de la Mare called The Listeners.
Yes, I know it.
And I've got it framed.
He knocks on the door with the horse.
Yes. And his horse in the darkness champed the grasses. I'm not going to read the whole poem because people have been
you can recite it. You can recite it.
I can't. I can only do the first bit. But there's a line in there that says, "Tell them that I came and no one answered, that I kept my word," he said. And the beauty of that poem is you don't know who the traveller is knocking on the door, and you don't know who the men are in the house. And I have tried to Google it, but I don't want to know. And it's the only thing that I've ever read that I don't mind that I don't know, because I always like the answers to everything.
Yeah, there's a beautiful line where kind of like the silence pulls away. It's an incredible poem. Also, I didn't know you wrote poetry.
I write a lot of poetry, yeah, a lot. I know.
Wow.
Well, the epigraphs at the front of the books, there's like a little poem, an epigraph at the front. I tried to find one, and this is supposed to be a quick fire round. Good luck with that.
Buckle up, everybody.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, I said Tina gives you value for money with your answers.
Yeah, it's like
we are blessed to have so
it's
much
like
information.
Having 5 authors in one. I write a lot of poetry. Susie's just taken this one off the wall. I'm not going to read it. I wrote this. It's about Christmas, and I hand wrote it out for her. She said, "Write me a poem." This was years ago. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Write me a poem about Christmas of old. 2017 I wrote that. So she then framed it and put it on the wall. But so going back to the epigraph, Susie just randomly puts stuff in front of me in these podcasts. So the epigraph, I always wanted to put an epigraph in my books. I've seen them done before. It's generally like a saying or a quote from a famous person or whatever. And I couldn't find an epigraph to fit the first book, Long Time Dead. So I searched the internet, and I was really kind of like, oh, she's grabbing the book now. So, thank you, my first baby.
You're welcome.
Our first baby. So I wrote my own. I thought I can write an epigraph to fit my book because I wrote the book. So now I write my own epigraphs.
I'm going to read it, Tina.
Are ya?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why bury me here in another man's grave and leave no candle to show me the way? You can't hide from the devil. He knows what you've done. And now he's coming to play. Does no one care to look for my bones? Am I gone from this life without trace? You put me here, forever to fear. I'll be a long time dead in this place.
Yeah.
Oh, it gives me chills, that,
Does
Tina.
it?
That's incredible. Yeah, I've gone all goosebumpy.
Gives me goosebumps.
I love I love writing them again. I do that at the very end, and I always put the title of the book in the epigraph, so it's always in there somewhere. But so
Very
yeah,
clever.
I've always written poetry since I was a kid. I love writing poetry. I can write a poem really, really quickly. I'm not going to do one right now, like put me on the spot, write a poem. Once was a lady called Hayley who interviewed Tina Gailey. It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
So we're going to move on to the main part of the podcast,
Yeah.
and I want to start with how you became a writer and your history, because I don't usually start with writers' journeys into how they became a writer, but obviously you worked in domestic crime unit, so it kind of feeds into, I presume, how you became a writer. Do you want to talk us through your journey?
Yeah, I always wanted to write a book. Even when I was a little kid, I always wanted to write. I was always writing stories. And it was probably about 15 years ago. I was working in the police? Yeah, I was working in the police. And I wrote a book. It was crime fiction. It wasn't as hard hitting as the books now. It was quite sort of soft-ish. And I couldn't get an agent. I couldn't get a publisher for it. I sent it out to loads of people, so I self-published it, and it did really, really well. It's now not available. I've took it off because obviously we started the Sheridan Holler series. So because of my experience, I've always worked in criminal justice. I mean, I did 18 years in the police. And I did 14 in the domestic violence unit. But going back, I've worked at all the courts in London. I've worked at the Old Bailey, the Court of Appeal. I've worked at magistrates' courts as a dock officer. So I've worked in the cells at all of those courts. And I've picked prisoners up from prisons, police stations. I've worked with probation service. My background is crimes. I was a store detective, and I can go on and on and on and on and on. So I'm intrigued by, I think a lot of people are intrigued by crime, why people commit crime, how they're caught, how they're not caught, how the police investigate it. So I always knew I was going to write crime fiction. And so I started Long Time Dead. God, it's got to be 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago I started writing that. I think one of the questions is how long did it take you to write it? Yeah, it took me years because I was working full time in the police, and I kind of had this idea. I had the idea for the book. Yeah, I was handwriting at one point, so I didn't even have a laptop. So I was in the police, and I started writing. I had an idea for Long Time Dead, and then I met Suzie, and then it got to like 2019, and I'd probably half written it. And I'd moved in with Suzie. I left the police because I worked in Norfolk Police. I lived in Norfolk, and then obviously Susie's up on the Wirral. So I moved in with her in 2019 with this book half written. And then I thought that the plan was to take 6 months out to kind of settle in up here. And then look to join Merseyside Police Domestic Violence Unit because, you know, I love the job and all that sort of thing. And then COVID hit. And so obviously we were all locked down, and I finished the book. I sat down with Suzie, went through how the book could work, and I finished the book, and that's when I started sending it out to agents.
Yeah, I've got a lot of writers at the moment who are. I kind of want to take you back to that failed book stage. I have so many writers who are at the stage of they can't find an agent, they're doubting what they're doing. It's really affecting the mental health. How did you keep going at that stage?
I think I got to a point where I believed, in fact, to be fair, Suzie was the one that said to me, you will make it, this will happen. Because, like I say, she's a massive reader and she's read a lot of books, and she knew that what we had created, and again, I'm very conscious during these interviews not to come across as being pompous and I'm the big I am, because I'm not, I don't think like that. But she built my confidence in I didn't have any confidence in my writing. I knew I'd written a quite a good book, but I get the rejection thing. I mean, my first book, I wrote years ago that I self-published. I lost count of the amount of rejections I got from agents, but I went into it with open eyes. I always knew this was going to be a really hard process. There's a lot of people writing books, and most agents get thousands of submissions every year and select probably, maybe, I don't know, 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 of those authors. It's about not taking it personally. You know, when we submitted Long Time Dead to lots of agents, and again, you don't necessarily get feedback from the agent, and I'm sure people listening who have been through this process, you send it off, you send your first 3 chapters and your synopsis and all of that, and you don't hear anything for months and months. And you think, well, that's rude. Well, the problem is, like I said to you, agents get thousands. They don't have time to give you that personal feedback. They get thousands of submissions, and like I say, they just, if you get a response, if you get a, it's not quite right for my list, then you're quite lucky to get that, because agents are super busy. It's not, I will say a little bit of advice about agents, and I'm sure the writers listening into this know this already. Research the agent, okay? Make sure you've looked at interviews they've done. Make sure that their submissions are open when you submit your book. I've known agents say, I'm closed to submissions, but people have just submitted to me saying, well, when you reopen submissions, have a read of this. It doesn't work. You're going to end up in the bin.
Yeah, they get deleted, don't they?
Well, yeah, they just won't. They won't read it. They're closed for a reason, because they're catching up on stuff. But research the agent, because be professional about it. You know, make sure that those, if the agent says send the first 3 chapters and a 500-word synopsis and a covering letter, don't send them chapters 7, 8 and 9 because they're your favourites, or a 4,000-word synopsis, because that agent one day will need to work with you, and if you get that wrong at the very beginning, they're not going to want to work with you, because they're going to say, well, you know, later on down the line there's schedules to be stuck to and there's certain things you have to do, and if you've fallen at that first hurdle, you've ruined your chance of going for that agent. It's get it right. As much time polishing your whole manuscript and your synopsis and getting it right and picking the right agent, you know, as you do writing the book. So that's,
can you talk us through how you met Brew? Because Brew, it was so lovely to see at your launch night that Brew had travelled up from London and was there to support you. That I thought that author-agent relationship, what a wonderful person to do that.
I'm very lucky. Yes, we have a professional relationship, of course we do, it's business at the end of the day, but we also have this great friendship. I mean, when Suzie and her get together, I was at an event in Gerrard's Cross called Chiltern Kills a few months ago, and I was up on stage on a panel, and all I could see in the audience was Suzie and Brew jibber-jabbering in each other's ear. And giggling, and they just spend the whole. I try and separate them if I can, but she's a good friend. But how I got Brew, kind of exactly how I've described, a bit earlier about getting an agent. When I first started submitting Long Time Dead, I researched a lot of agents, watched interviews they did, and all that sort of stuff. And Brew stuck out to me, and I don't know why. There was something about her. And the one thing I didn't do was submit Long Time Dead to her. I submitted it to everybody else because I was worried. Suzie said, why are you not submitting to this particular agent? And I said, because I don't want her to reject me. I really, I really want this agent. And so I got rejection. And then it came to the point where Suzie said, look, you're just do it. Just submit the book to her. And I submitted to her and a couple of other agents that I'd looked at, and one of them came back within like a day and said, oh, I love what you've sent me, can I have the full manuscript? So I was like, oh, and then Brew came back and said, I want the full manuscript as well. And then another agency came back and said, oh, we would have asked for it, and so it was like buses, 3 of them came along at once. So I sent the whole manuscript to Brew. She read it that day and emailed me back that evening and said, look, I've read the book, we need to talk. But then it was during COVID, so she was going away. I think it's when we were about to go into lockdown, I can't remember. So I had to wait a couple of days, and I'm like, oh my God, she wants to talk. And I had this conversation with Suzie going, well, does that mean she's going to sign me? Or does that mean she's got questions? And it was just those days of like. Anyway, she rang me on the Wednesday or whatever it was, and just said She said I loved it. I absolutely loved it, wow. And I'd like to sign you. And I'm like, okay, yes. And she knows that story. She knows that I didn't submit to her, and I wish I had, obviously earlier. So yeah, that's how I got Brew, and she's a very well-known, very well-respected, brilliant agent, one of the best in the country. I should say the best in the country, but she is incredible. There's nothing about the business she doesn't know, and she's a great friend.
She's at DHH Literary Agencies.
Yeah,
isn't she? She's closed to submissions at the moment, people. So please check if you want to submit. So yeah, I think she's closed. Yeah.
I'm keeping her too busy, probably.
Yes.
I always say to her, just close your submissions permanently. Just look after me. I'm joking, obviously.
She's never allowed to retire.
Yeah. What do you think happened between that first book that didn't get an agent, and obviously it sold incredibly well when you self-published? But what shifted? Do you know what changed between Long Time Dead and your first book, or?
I think it's Suzie just put her hand up and said me. I'll be honest with you, when I wrote the book that I say is now no longer available, it was called To Catch a Butterfly, and I had the cover was designed by a friend of mine who did a bit of cover design. The cover was shocking. The book needed a complete...
No offence to your friend, are you still friends?
No. The shot actually went... I haven't seen her for many years. No, oh God, that sounded really bad.
Did Tina? I'm just trying to save a friendship for you there.
Save me. No, it was. I gave her some ideas. She came back with some covers. I picked one, so it was my fault. I take full responsibility. Am I digging myself out of that massive
Keep
hole?
digging.
Yeah. And it was completely wrong colour as far as crime fiction. It didn't, you leave it to the professionals now. If you've got a publisher, they know what they're doing. But it needed a real proofread. The grammar was atrocious. The chapters were super long. I mean, it did really well for a self-published book. I mean, it did really, really well. I was quite surprised. But I think I've now learnt how to structure a book, how to put a book together. I'd like to revisit To Catch a Butterfly one day, I think, and just see where I went wrong. But people enjoyed it. You're always learning in this process.
Do you structure before you write now? What is your process?
We plot more and more because it's a series, and you have to make sure that some of the threads of the book carry through, that you don't forget any of them. We plot more and more because for anyone that's read them or maybe read them, they're quite intricate. The twists and turns are quite intricate. So sometimes as I'm writing a scene, something will pop in my head and I go, oh, actually, I could go off and do that. So it does change the structure of the book a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just going to hold up Count the Dead because in this book, you find out something in this book that was set up in book one. And I think that's so incredibly hard to do, to plan over a series.
Yeah, and people ask me sometimes, is it harder to write a series than to write standalones? Well, I think, me personally, it's easier to write a series because I've already got my main characters. I don't have to create a whole new bunch of main characters. And again, it's not a spoiler because it's out there, completely out there. But in book one, we learned that Sheridan joined the police force because she wanted to solve her brother's murder. Her brother Matthew was murdered when he was 12 and she was 14. His case, in the 70s, his case was never solved, and she joined the police force as soon as she could, planning to be a detective and solve his case. And as the books go on, you know, the cold case have now picked up Matthew's murder in book one. Bits of evidence are coming through now. But we took the decision, Suzie and I, my agent and my publisher, and Suzie and I said, by book 4, we need to conclude that story.
Never drag it out.
Because I think readers that are used to the series and have read books 1, 2 and 3, I don't want them to get to the point and go, look, please just tell us what happened to her brother. I don't want to drag that for book after book after book after book. So it's concluded. So in Count the Dead, you find out what actually happened to her brother.
Did you have to introduce something else to then span over future books? Does that make sense?
So yeah, with the overriding arcs, very good question by the way, because we have to tell our publisher where the books are going. So in book 1, you are aware that Anna, who is Sheridan Holler's detective sergeant, they're best friends and all that, she's in a relationship with her partner who is quite violent. So that arc has been going since book 1. Just little bits, and again I've used my experience working in domestic violence to kind of like to work that plot. But it is a subplot going through the books. So now we finished Matthew's story in book 4, and I'm not going to say too much, but book 5 is written, and again I didn't want to drag on Anna's story with her partner, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you make it sound so easy, but that's incredibly complex, Tina, to be like thinking of these overarching questions and past trauma and then dropping when you're going to pay it off. I mean, it's quite a complex puzzle, that, isn't it? It
is, yeah. And again, I'm lucky I've got Suzie here who, because I sometimes get boxed in and I get quite stroppy, not in a horrible way. People start throwing things at me. Where I say, no, I want this has got to work, this is where we're going, and I get boxed in, and then I'll sit down with Suzie and she'll say, well, okay, but how about this, or how about we do that instead? So I'm very lucky, and this is why I go back to people that are writing books, to have that person or somebody that they can talk to about, say, look, I've got this overriding arc, or I've got this complex story, and talk to that person about it, but talk honestly about it. But yeah, I'm not going to die. It is complex. It is hard work. No, I take that back. I said this in an interview recently about it's hard work. No, it's not hard work. Getting up at 4 a.m, scraping your car off and driving to a factory and doing a 12-hour shift, and then doing your shopping and your washing when you get home and looking after your kids, and then going back to... That's hard work, okay? What I do is not hard work, it's head work. But I get to sit in the comfort of my own home, on my laptop, and make stories up for a living. And I love it, so it's not hard work. I take that back. Yeah. You don't have to edit that out, by the way. It's just not hard work.
Oh no, that's incredible, and I love that. Like, I don't know, you've just got that perspective. It's just a very grounding perspective, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? I feel blessed. I've worked since I was... In fact, I lied on my first application form. I was still at school, and I lied to get a job. I said I was 16, I wasn't, and all that sort of stuff, because you had to be 16 to do this job, blah, 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 blah. And I've worked, from the minute I left school, I've worked some really tough jobs, like a lot of other people have. I've done night shifts, I've done day shifts, I've been worked in a factory chopping carrots. Thanks for that, Suzie. I'm trying to make myself sound all like interesting and that. Yeah, I had to chop carrots. Yeah. And then, I'll tell you the story of that one day, because it is quite funny. But anyway, how I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Anyway, I've learnt since how to chop a carrot. But I've worked some really hard jobs. I've worked with violent people. I've been assaulted. I've been, knocked unconscious. I've done all sorts of stuff. And for me now to be able to sit here and do what I do, I feel very, very blessed. It's been a long journey and it hasn't been easy. But now I look back and think, how lucky am I? How privileged am I and fortunate am I to be able to do what I do full time. I am absolutely blessed to do that.
That's such a lovely framing of it. It's so lovely.
Can't chop a carrot, but I can be nice.
So when you're boxed in and Suzie bills you a door, how many drafts does it then take you? Are you redrafting all the time, or are you fixing problems before you write?
No, I tell you what I do. If I'm boxed in, I think a lot of writers might make this mistake, is you write a scene and you're not happy with it, and then you think, right, and they spend days and days and days and days trying to fix that scene. Okay, that's fine if that's the way you want to do it. The problem is that scene, as you carry on writing the book, that scene is probably going to change anyway. So don't waste days and days and days trying to get that scene absolutely perfect, because it's probably going to change. Get the book written, get it down, get your main plot points down. It doesn't have to be in any great order. Don't think, I'll make this chapter 7. Don't even worry about chapters to start with. Just put yourself a little line break or something, but get it down. And if you do get boxed in, I think step away from it. Just step away and realise that there is, almost put that idea aside for now. Just put that idea aside that you had, because writers do get kind of they do get boxed in because you're so desperate to make that scene work, or you're so desperate for that character to be that sort of person. Step away. Don't beat yourself up and panic. I think panicking is people panic and they think, oh my God, it's never going to work. It will work. Take a breath, take a step away, just type up what you can that day, and then come back and fix bits at the end, or as you're getting towards the end, because don't waste time on a particular scene. Again, I don't even know if that's answered your question.
It's perfect. So you're on quite a tight schedule for your books. Do you want to talk us through the schedule you work to, and how long's your first draft? How long do you give to redrafting?
I'm on a 9-month turnaround. So once I've delivered, we've just delivered book 5, which is called One Bad Deed, and that's out in July. It's on Amazon, but we haven't got the cover yet. That'll come later. So I'm now plotting book 6. So I've got between now and the 1st of July next year to deliver book 6 to the publisher. So I've got to plot it and then obviously tweak it, get it absolutely right, get it as clean as I possibly can. Then it goes to my agent, who reads it, comes back and tells me it's absolutely amazing. Are you listening, Bru? No, she'll come back and say, love it, but that needs sorting out, or that needs changing, or whatever. So I then have to do all her edits. I'm then, it goes to Bru. Once we are both happy that we've got it spot on, it then goes to my editor at Thomas & Mercer, Vic Haslam, or Hannah Shaw's been looking after me for this year, and she's been amazing. So the editor will then read it and accept it, because they can turn the book down. They'll accept it. Fingers crossed they've always accepted it. They then have a conversation with my dev editor, I can't say this word, developmental, I can say it, editor, Russell McLean. He then sends me the manuscript back with loads and loads of structural edits on it.
Can I pause you there, Tina? What's the difference? So you've got 2 editors that the book's going through.
Yeah. So let's say Vic Haslam, because she's my editor at Thomas and Mercer. She's the person that buys the books.
I see.
Okay.
So she's the acquiring editor.
She's the acquiring editor, yeah.
Yeah.
But she'll also work with Russell, so they'll read the book together, not side by side, sitting in each other's houses. So they'll both read the book and they'll come up with a structural plan as to where the book could go and how to make it better.
Yeah.
So then we then have a meeting and we talk about it, about, yes, we like this, but we don't like that, and da-da-da-da-da. Russell then sends me a letter with what he thinks could work, and then he sends me the whole manuscript back with all his changes and all his suggestions. I mean, at the end of the day, it's my book, and if I don't agree with a change, then I don't have to make it. But I will say this: listen to your dev editor, because they're only there to make the book better. A dev editor or an editor is never going to send you something back to upset you, and if you take it personally and you throw a tantrum, then you're probably in the wrong business. And that sounds quite serious and brutal, and I don't mean it to, but you have to be broad-shouldered, because, like I say, these people aren't telling you, suggesting things to you for the hell of it. They're doing it because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. How do you process that letter? Do you think about it for a while, or do you get stuck straight in, or...?
Well, the actual letter itself is usually about, I'm going to say half a page. It's not. It's about 5 pages. You read it, because, like I say, everything he takes time to put that letter together, and the letter is basically an overall feedback. Like, he'll say something like, okay, so with Sheridan's brother's story, yes, it's great that we've concluded that now, but I'm thinking maybe you need to delve deeper into her feelings about something. So he'll do a generalisation in the letter, and then in the actual manuscript he will then do lines. He'll sort of highlight a scene and say, this bit here is where you need to give more of Sheridan's thought process or her feelings about something. Now I might say, yeah, I agree with that, and I'll add a bit, or I might say, no, I'm not going to do that here, Russell, I think it works better later on.
Yeah.
So that process takes, I think I get about 3 weeks on his first edit, I think.
2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks. Then I send it back to him. He does some more work on it and sends it back to me, and that happens 3 times. And then I've got a final one. Then, and this is just happening with book 5. So we've done all that. The publisher's now got the book. They're going to give that to a copy editor, who will do a line-by-line edit, and like factual things. So if I say, Wednesday the 3rd of June 1977, that copy editor will check that to make sure it was a Wednesday. Or if I've said, there was I don't tend to put things that are actually happening in the world in my books. So whatever I've done, I've made it up. But she will just check facts. If I say something, someone was sentenced to life imprisonment for shoplifting, well, all right, I know that's not true anyway, but somebody who doesn't know the police procedural side of things or how the court system works, they might put in there, yeah, he got done for shoplifting and he got or he got done for murder and he got a 6-month sentence. Well, the copy editor would go, really? I don't think so. So the copy editor does her thing, then it goes to a proofreader
or a sensitivity reader.
So if there's, in A Long Time Dead, we had a sensitivity read because one of the characters has a traumatic brain injury. And they wanted to make sure that we handled those scenes with her properly. So if there's something that's going to touch a few nerves, we have a sensitivity read. Then we have a proofread, which again is just somebody going through the book to make sure nothing's been missed, the commas are in the right place, and there's nothing, majorly wrong with it. And then it goes to a cold reader, which is somebody who has never read the book and reads it and comes back with any last little bits. And then at that stage, I get sent the manuscript, and I've only got a couple of days to then just go through it again to make sure we're all happy. And then it's done. Then I can't make any changes after that.
It's such a thorough process, isn't it?
It's a thorough...
Wow.
Not all publishers, I will say, not all publishers have quite so many edits. I've spoken to authors that are published by other people, I won't mention sort of names and everything, and each publisher is probably slightly different, so not all of them will go through quite so many edits. Some might go through more edits. But yeah, Thomas and Mercer Yeah, spot on. Love it.
Fantastic. So with Count the Dead, this is your most recent book that's out, and I'm very lucky to have a signed copy. I absolutely love the pacing in your books, Tina. You've got that. I go to bed with it and I think, oh, just one more chapter. And then your chapters are only 2 pages long. So I think, oh, just one more. Before you know it, it's 3 a.m. How did you learn how to pace like this?
Are you going to blame me for your sleep deprivation? Sorry, not sorry. This is just sorry, not sorry. Again, I see Suzie sitting across the table from me and she's just smiling ear to ear. When I wrote Long Time Dead, the chapters were quite long. And I hadn't really learned, this is the very first draft. And I didn't leave any of the chapters or many of them on a hook. Maybe a couple. And she kind of said, you need to make the chapters shorter. Because again, as an avid reader, if she... And I'm the same. If I'm starting a book and it's like chapter 4, I will flick ahead, and if there's 15, 20 pages in that chapter, I will then think I'm going to leave that for now. I like short chapters, I like writing them, and I think it's, like you said, the one more chapter thing, and we have had a lot of readers come back and say, love the short chapters, because, like you say, you can say, well, I'm just going to have one more.
Just you can't stop. It's like when I eat Pringles, I just can't stop.
But also, I think, and it's not overdoing it, because I think I might have got a bit overexcited when I wrote Long Time Dead, and then we had all the short chapters, and I thought, oh, I've got to leave a hook at the end of every single one. No, you don't. I mean, you're going to batter your own head if you try and do that. So you have a couple where you think, oh, what's Sheridan just seen? She's seen something. What is it? And then you think, oh, I just want to read the next chapter to find out what it is. But then you have chapters where you've ended that scene and it's done and you're just going to move on to the next day. So I think you need to give the readers a break and don't constantly... Yeah, and put humour in there. I love putting the humour side of it. So, and if there's a humorous scene, like with Doreen and now her friend Gloria and then Doreen, they're two older ladies who just are bonkers together. Are they pivotal to the story? No, they allow Hill, there's a character called Hill Knowles who's very grumpy and all of that. They allow her to be seen outside of work because she's very good friends. She's a neighbour of Gloria. So the funny scenes, of course, they're not going to leave you on a hook. They're just going to be a funny scene and make you kind of a little bit of palate cleansing.
Yeah, and that's what I love, because you like layering. Because I also love the scenes between Detective Sheridan and her partner Sam, because I feel like it allows you to go to a darker place with your main plot, because you have the love of their relationship and the comedy that comes through from their relationship, and that's like layered between the darkness of your story, and the comedy balances so beautifully, the comedy and love balances so beautifully against your main very dark and gritty plots.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I genuinely, I think it's, like I say, you do have to get the balance. At the end of the day, it's crime fiction. It's not comedy. But I worked in criminal justice long enough, and I worked in the police long enough to know that you have those mad moments of hilarity. You know, I always say I worked in DV, it was a really tough job, very stressful. On a Friday in the office, we'd probably have to have a laugh and do something stupid, because and never aimed at the victims I was dealing with, all the cases, but we just do silly stuff because you have to kind of lighten that. Yeah. You're dealing with dark things, you know, like you said about the books, there's dark matter, but then you come back to Sheridan's life where Sam's burning everything she cooks. And I will just say, I was quite, when I created Sheridan, I wanted to make sure that although she was always going to be a gay character, but it doesn't matter. It's inconsequential that she's gay. In fact, sometimes you forget that she's gay because I don't even mention it. You know, she lives with Sam and all of that, but there's nothing about her character where, you know, the staff, her colleagues don't mention her sexuality. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But also that a character that doesn't have any angst. She goes home to Sam. Sam doesn't like tap her watch and say, where have you been? It's midnight. The dinner's burnt, or, you know, I've had to do all the housework. She goes home to Sam and they have such a beautiful relationship. And they don't argue. Sam gets Sheridan's job. They adore each other. And I'm often asked, weirdly, are they based on Suzie and I? And I'm not going to get all sloppy and romantic now, but they weren't based on Suzie and I, if I'm honest, when I first wrote those characters. But now we look at them, we think, that's me, and because Suzie can't cook. No, I'm joking.
Well, you can't cut a carrot, Tina.
I can now. I've learned how to do it. That's a long... I'll tell you one day when I see you. It's a stupid story about the blooming carrots. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, I wanted to create a character that doesn't have she's not an alcoholic, and she doesn't sit in the corner of a room banging her head against the wall because the job's getting to her. She goes home to Sam, and Sam fixes her, and it's all great.
I just think that safe space and that love of that relationship is beautiful, because I'm not a crime reader and I adore your books, and I think it is Sam and Sheridan that makes me enjoy the book so much, because I know that space between them is protected and filled with love.
Yeah.
And that allows me to digest the darkness of a crime novel, because it is a safe space between them, and it's just such a loving relationship with so much comedy. And I did think, as I was reading it, because I know that you and Suzie are just so funny and naturally comedic people, and I felt that sense of, is this Tina and Susie's relationship? Right. Because it was just so lovely and funny, and a lovely contrast, which means you can dive into the darkness of the crime. Yeah,
I think it's like I say, it's getting the balance right. I mean, some books will always be just dark, and the main character is angst ridden. It's all very da 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 da. I wouldn't enjoy writing a book. Readers love that kind of stuff, of course they do. I wouldn't enjoy writing that. I think I need to have that like you say, that balance of letting you go into the darkness, but then having Sheridan come home and the cat's Maud's eating Jaffa cakes, hence the Jaffa cakes earlier. So yeah, it's I had a lady very quickly. I had a review on Amazon. Lady had read the book and said, I love all the characters. Maud, if no one's read the books, there's a cat called Maud who is Sam and Sheridan's cat, and she eats anything, including Jaffa cakes. I know chocolate's poisonous, but she doesn't eat the chocolate bit. But then the lady put this review on Amazon and said, I love the book. My favourite character is Maud, but I'm very worried about her cholesterol. I love that. She's genuinely worried about this cat. It's like
the imaginary cat.
The imaginary cat, yeah. Yeah. So Maud's fine.
Oh, wonderful. One of the things that I adore is you've got a great hook, and then your ending pays off from a very incredible hook. And when I first read some of your openings, I thought, how is she going to get to an end from that? And you always give a really satisfying ending. Have you got any advice for writers as to how to pull all those threads together at the end?
I would say, if you're going to write a fairly complex story, is you've got all these little threads, and we'll call them red herrings as well, where you're trying to lead the reader down one route, or you've got this little plot thread, and is to make sure and you should know this because you're writing the book, but it's quite easy to forget one of those that you've put in there. Like you'll throw a little red herring in, or you'll throw something in, and if you don't keep a note of that, keep notes of all those things you've done, at the end it's quite easy to forget one of them or two of them. If you forget it, then you're going to finish the book and the reader is going to go, well, hang on a minute, what happened to that person? Because I do, not everyone does it, I do an epilogue at the end of the books, as you know, so anything that I tie up the whole investigation within the book itself, within the manuscript itself. But I always then do, and I'm not suggesting everyone does this because it doesn't work for lots of people, but I like everything tied up. But I will make detailed notes of those threads and make sure I don't forget one of them. Because it's easy to throw a red herring in. Anyone can do that. Anyone can throw a red herring into a book and go, ha ha ha, that's going to make them think something. But it's very difficult or it's easy to forget that red herring, get to the end of the book and you haven't covered it. So I would just say, just keep detailed notes of what you're doing. Yeah, and don't throw something in there just because you think at the time, wow, that sounds, that's a great little scene, I love that scene, I'm going to leave that in there. If it doesn't work at the end and you can't bring it back to tie, you can't tie it up at the end, then don't use it. Use it for another book.
It's got to go.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. When you first started writing many, many years ago, if you could go back and have a chat with yourself, what advice would you give to yourself?
Give up and go down the pub. Right, what advice? Do you know what? I would probably just say, have more confidence in yourself and get that book written. Because I could have been doing this 20 years ago. There's no problem starting a career later in life. I mean, I'm 59, and that's your opportunity to say you don't look it.
You don't look it, Tina.
Thank you very much. Which is a bit of a delay there. To be fair.
Sorry, I was thinking of my next question.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, got yourself out of that one. Yeah, I would probably just say, do it now. And that's probably rubbish advice, but
No, it's great advice.
Yeah,
it's great advice.
Just sit down and get the book written. Just get it done and get it out there.
Yeah, fantastic. So One Bad Deed will be out in July.
Yeah.
And what are your plans? I know you can't give too much away, but is the rest of the series planned? Have you got other series ideas for after this, or what does your future look like?
The future hopefully looks good.
We're plotting 6 right now.
We're plotting 6. Yeah, I'm not doing this podcast at all. I'm actually at my laptop plotting book 6. So yeah, I wanted to get that plotted by the end of the year. I'm not quite sure that's gonna happen. It might be sort of mid-January now because once we've got the plot down, then I can literally go, and that will change obviously, but I can then start writing. So book 6 we're plotting now, and we've got ideas for book 7.
Exciting.
I try not to jump too far ahead, because what happens is, because I've got, obviously, Count the Dead's not long been out. It's only been out a month and a half. So obviously I'm doing interviews on that, and we did a lot of promotional work on Count the Dead. I've just finished book 5, so my head's also in book 5 because that's been going for an edit, and I'm plotting book 6. So I've always got 3 books in my head because of the way the quick turnaround. So I don't want to think too much about book 7 yet, but we probably will. And just keep going. I have no plans to start a new series, if I'm honest. I love writing the Sheridan Holler series. I love it so much, and I don't want to have to start again and create a whole new bunch of characters. Because I love writing her, so I'll just keep writing her until my fingers do like clampy stuff.
Oh, and your readers love her too. So finally, we have quite an exciting announcement at the end of today's podcast, because Tina has very, very kindly, along with Suzie, she's going to support a crime writer for a Scent Novel Prize next year, 2026. So for our top scoring crime or thriller entry, you are going to be sponsored by Tina and her partner Suzie, and we're going to put together a package of support that's going to help one lucky writer with the next steps of their career. So I can't thank you enough, both of you, for providing this opportunity for an aspiring writer. And also what I love about this is that in so many other professions, people would see the next generation as like competitors, but the way that you reach out and help others and kind of want to lift other people up, it's just incredible. Are you hardwired that way, or do you think it's something about...
No, I think, I mean, we were helped. We were supported. We've been supported by a lot of authors that have kindly read our books and given us quotes.
And given us advice.
And you know, talk to us about how the business works and all that sort of stuff. But going back to the thing about new writers coming up, you think, oh gosh, there's a new person writing really good crime fiction, and they're going to be better than me, and no one's going to buy my books. No, it's not like that. Of course, it's not. At the end of the day, we need to have fresh books and fresh authors coming out there. Better writers, Suzie said. We will always encourage new people, and I love doing podcasts like this and answering questions. I don't have time to be an advisor. There are people out there that do that, but I'm more than happy to speak to somebody if they say, look, I'm at this point in my book and I'm not quite sure. If I've got time, if I'm at an event, I will say, of course, I love advising people, because we were all there. Even the big guns, your top authors were newbies. They were all newbies, and they got supported, and they got help through the process. So let's keep that tradition going. It's
pay it forward.
Pay it forward, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Tina and Suzie, it has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having us.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe and share with writer friends, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Until then, keep writing.